I have a very special guest today, Dan Chuparkoff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mark. It's great to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation today. I've listened to a couple of the episodes far, and it's great. And I'm looking forward to bringing a conversation to the audience today as well. It's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you as a guest on the show. I know we had a chat a little before this, and I'm very excited to dive in and learn about your storied career and what you're up to. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. Yeah, no, my pleasure.
So for those that may not be familiar with your work, why don't you share who you are and what you do?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm Dan Chuparkoff. I've been a product management leader for a long time. I started my career in 1993. We'll get into that a little bit more. But I worked at some big companies. Recently at Google, I led some product management for mobile things at Google. Before that, I led an incubator, a software incubator at McKinsey & Company, the big consulting firm. And then before that, I worked at Atlassian on a product that lots of people love and some people hate called Jira. And so that's sort of part of my backstory. And those are the places I worked. But I had the fortunate experience of starting my career right before PCs hit Teams and the way we worked. And so I had to figure out what PCs were going to mean. And then we got the internet, and I had to figure out what the internet on PCs were going to mean for Teams and the way we worked. And then we got mobile, and then we got cloud, and then we got data science, and then we got remote teams. And this, every 5 years, there's some major transition that changes the way we collaborate, the way we, get work done for our customers. And AI is the next one of those waves. And so I'm just doing the same thing I've been doing since 1994. It's just AI now instead of PCs or the internet.
Yeah, it's a very fascinating journey you've been on, and you're absolutely right. AI is now, it's no different, but it's completely different. What does it mean for teams now leveraging this kind of technology?
I think it's more important than ever for people to really take an introspective look at what they mean when they say work. Because some people sort of get caught up in the routine of a workday, and they go to work, they show up at an office, or they log on in their pajamas or whatever they do in the mornings now. And then they have a bunch of meetings and read a bunch of email and maybe send a little more email and try to keep up with chat messages. And that's not what your customers are buying from you. And so as we start using AI as a smart assistant helping us do things, AI is going to be really good at that information management part of the job. So much so that you might not ever need to have actual meetings with people, or you'll have a lot less of them. So if you don't have any meetings or don't need to care about email at your work, what do you do? Like, what's your job? And that's going to be unsettling for some people, and it won't be a light switch. It's not going to like all of a sudden change one day, but it will gradually start changing, and that's what I help teams do today.
Amazing. I'm just imagining a world without email or chat. What are we doing then, right?
Yeah, so I'll jump ahead to the end state, and like I said, it will be a gradual transition toward this state. But like, imagine you start using ChatGPT to help you do stuff, right? Mm-hmm. You ask it questions, you tell it what you think, and it improves how you articulate what you think. Little by little, you're starting to have more and more of a conversation with this virtual assistant. And meanwhile, all your coworkers are also having those virtual conversations. Your virtual assistants know what you think about a certain topic, and they know what your colleagues think also. And so the smart assistants can just get together and create a summary of what people think on a particular topic. You don't necessarily have to go and sit for an hour and talk about what you think about that topic, because the AI assistant that's been helping you all week will already sort of know your position, and it'll start creating smart summaries of people's stance on a particular decision, or the status of projects, or the ideas for what you could build next. Like these things will start coming by default because your smart assistant will just already know these things, and so that's what it'll kind of look like eventually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Do you think meetings are getting shorter or longer?
I think we fill our weeks with meetings because we're not really sure what else to do with them. Right? Maybe some meetings are getting shorter, but then we just have more of them. And a lot of people are remote now, so the hallway conversations or the lunch table topic, is now a meeting, and so there's probably more meetings. But when I like look at surveys of meeting time, McKinsey and Microsoft both did studies a couple of years ago and said that about 68% of most knowledge workers time is spent in meetings and email and chat. That's a fairly consistent number over the last couple of decades. So I don't know that it's really changing fundamentally that much.
Got it. Very interesting. What's been your experience with ChatGPT?
I think its accuracy surprised me at first. I've been paying attention to the growth of machine learning and AI kinds of technologies for 15 years. And when ChatGPT came out, OpenAI's GPT-3 with the chat interface on top of it, that was mind-blowing. And so I know it's not magic. I know how it works. So it didn't surprise me exactly, but I was impressed by how good it was at understanding what I meant and how good it was at giving me an answer back in natural language. But what I've discovered is it's really good at some things and not good at other things. And the way you know which of the things is how much of the stuff is on the internet, what's in the training data, the kind of stuff that's posted on websites or written in books. It's going to be great at that stuff. But if you ask it an obscure question that's not written on 9,000 web pages already, it's going to be way worse at answering that question. And it won't get better because those harder, obscure questions just won't be in training data anywhere. Or if it is there, there's not enough quantity of it.
Yeah, it's you're absolutely right. It's good at some things. It's bad at others. Without knowing, how do you experiment with the tool to maybe stretch yourself and what you've used it for?
I think the first thing I always do when I'm trying to ask it any questions is I ask it for multiple answers. So, when I was talking about time spent in meetings, that's an example of a thing that I would ask ChatGPT. And I would say, I'm looking for the amount of time most knowledge workers spend in meetings. Give me 5 answers to the questions and cite the sources where you got that information. I don't just say, how much time do people spend in meetings? Because then it'll say, I don't know, 75% or 42%. And I won't understand how reliable that is. Mm-hmm. But by asking for multiple responses, then it allows you to sort of pick and choose the quality of what you're getting back, which is also what people do with search engines. Right. You never just pick the first Google answer and then go on with your day. You sort of scan the list and see, which of these things look like they might be more reputable. And so you should do that with ChatGPT as well, I think.
Interesting. You spend a lot of time working with teams. What is it about teams that people get wrong?
I think the first thing is people think they want awareness, but they actually want alignment. People share status of things a lot. They share the status of their project. They share what they think about a thing. They share what's going on, what just happened, all the things that came back from customers. We share outwardly, like we push information out a lot. Awareness actually isn't that helpful. Alignment is like we're all trying to do this together. Does everyone agree? That's a really important thing to have conversations about. But if I'm over here working on a new feature for a product, I don't really need to tell everyone else all the details about that feature, unless I don't actually have any decision making. If everyone else needs to hear everything I'm doing because they're going to make sure I'm doing it right, then that creates the need for sharing every single thing about every single thing. And that's one of the things that's hurting our teams in the world today. We overshare because we don't have the authority to make decisions about the things we're doing.
Would there be an opportunity where I love this kind of idea of maybe I'm guilty of oversharing. Can we offset some of that sharing with dialogue with AI so that it gets the bulk of okay, talk to AI before you talk to me kind of thing?
Right. 100%. I think AI will be massively helpful in solving that problem. Because one of the problems with sharing information is that you're pushing information to people that don't need to know that thing exactly right now. Right. And so one day down the road, this person might have a question about that thing that I'm working on, but it's not today. And so what AI will start doing is it'll start collecting status and thoughts and positions and arguments for or against a thing. And it'll start stashing this away in a repository so that when people need to know that later, they can ask AI again, and it'll pull out exactly the parts that they need at that moment. I'll share an example I heard
Please.
from another AI speaker. He has a podcast called The AI Advantage, and his name is Igor. He was at a conference with me just this week, and one of the things he said is, imagine you could take all of the YouTube episodes where Mr. Beast was interviewed, upload those into some AI. Then you could just ask it questions about what would Mr. Beast do about this, right? You could take all the thoughts of a particular expert on a topic and stash them away so that when you need to know something, you can ask questions on demand of the experts. That I think is a really, really great way to start leveraging AI's ability to ingest billions of pieces of information and then retrieve them on the fly in real time. That will happen on your teams as well, right? If you're a subject matter expert on, a particular customer thing, I want all your thoughts in a repository, and I want to be able to ask you questions anytime I want, even if you're sleeping. And without interrupting your work. And that, I think, is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, this idea of very hyper-focused trained models, whether they be GPTs, and you've got all the context you need there. I feel like something like every how-to book will at some point be a GPT. That whether it's Amazon's, you get the Kindle version, you get the GPT, and fire away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think people right now are creating them, and it's a bit more of a manual process of, uploading a PDF but I think there will be libraries in not too distant future where it's like everything is this, actionable book in a way.
Yeah. I totally agree. And that's where I think for workers, it gets important to distinguish between aggregating a how-to book from existing information and creating a brand new how-to thing that hasn't existed before.
Mm-hmm.
Because the aggregation of information is less helpful in a world driven by AI, right? If I could write a book about how to use ChatGPT right now, but there are also probably 9 or 29 books already on that subject, and mine might be a little bit better, or a little bit worse. But it's just like I'm just passing information that already exists onto my particular audience. And that's helpful right now, but it will get less and less helpful as everyone's thoughts just get, pushed into this AI assistant in the cloud.
Yeah, I wrestle with this idea of the art of ChatGPT because, a lot of it, there's the science of, like you said, the information that everyone's got the same kind of pool of access to.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we exercise our own intelligence to connect those dots? So how do teams encourage creativity in this environment?
Right. I think that's a really important part of going forward in an AI work future. Because there are things that people can do that AIs have a lot of trouble with. Like writing a joke. That's really, really, really hard. And the first part is it can find jokes that already exist on the internet, but it will, pull those for you. And that's fine. It's great at that. But writing a new joke means, like, first you have to know the end of the joke. You need to know the punchline, and then you have to gradually set it up. And GPTs work one word at a time. It predicts the next word in a sentence, and then the word after that, and then the word after that. So it will never know the end of the joke until the end of the joke. And so that's one example of creativity that people are good at and AI won't be good at. And there are other joke-like things that we do, where we're imagining a movie with a really twist ending, the M. Night Shyamalan kind of movie, right? Like, that's really hard for AI to do. And so when we think about creativity, uniqueness, twists and turns, unpredictability, surprising and delighting customers, those are things that people are great at, and AI will continue, no matter how much training data we give it, it will continue to fail at those kinds of things. And so our work in the future as people trying to bring value to customers lies in that creativity, the surprising and delighting of customers. AI can't do that, and people will. And so that's, I think, where everybody should be looking for those surprise and delight moments, and that will be the key to success in the future.
I would definitely agree that there is a human element that I think is going to become even more important as the output of that blog post or that story. What are the edits that you make to it to make it connect better? Those subtle changes. So in a way, I would feel like we've got to become better editors, and in order to do that, we need to know what good is.
Right.
And so, you want to write a better joke or know how to massage what ChatGPT's given you. Well, learn about what makes a great joke. Don't just assume, right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing, what good is a brilliant stake in the line in the sand, because that's the thing that's really, really hard for AI. Because first of all, what I think good is and what you think good is might be different. Mm-hmm. And so it's difficult for an algorithm to write something that both of us will like. because it's going to find the least common denominator, right? That, the overlap between what you think good is and what I think is good is, and the least common denominator might not meet either of our expectations, right? And so that will be really important. The other thing is what good is might not be in any training data somewhere. Like my favorite color. That's not, ChatGPT doesn't know that. But like when I look at something visually, it's important. I use colors for very specific reasons. And I could say right now what my favorite color is, but I won't, because I don't want it in the training data, because then I won't be able to use that as an example anymore. But there are millions or trillions of things in our heads that influence what we think good looks like. The things that make us happy and the things that makes us sad and the things that get us from sad to happy. And people can find those things because we know the things that are in our head too. And so tying those things together, tying the threads together in a story, becoming a better editor, knowing what good looks like, I think those are the keys to success in an AI work future.
Yeah, that knowing what good looks like can be achieved with reference data, right? Like if I did a stand-up comedy night where I included, I wrote a bunch of jokes in the style of Norm Macdonald.
Okay.
And they all needed to be edited. But if you use volume as a forcing function, you're going to get some gold in there, right?
Right.
So what are your thoughts on having, where are organizations getting this information that's going to help them, right? Because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, I think the first thing is organizations should start playing around with these things to find the edges, figure out what it's good at and what it's not.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, especially technical people interested in newfangled technology like this, are playing around with it at home. But at many organizations, it's still like firewalled because they're afraid of putting proprietary data somewhere that they don't understand.
Right.
And so the first thing is, organizations need to start setting up sandboxes so that people can start learning how this works and what to do with it and what it's good at and what it's not. Second, once they start creating this divide between what it's good at and what it's not good at, then looking at the what it's not good at pile and see, like, would that be better if we had some proprietary data somewhere that we could fine tune? That will be step 2 in starting to make this stuff better. And some things we'll find that we just can't make it better because people just have intuition and we can't quite explain it. And that's good because that means there's still some work for us people to do. But just finding that work is the tricky part.
That intuition that comes from practice, experience. Where do you see the opportunity in tapping into that at a unique genius level for the people in organizations? Like finding what they're really, really good at that's going to make the biggest difference for the organization.
Right. I have a pyramid of tasks that people do. I'll share the picture with you. You can share it with your listeners in a link. The things people are best at that AI will not be great at are problem solving, discovery of brand new things, and creation of something brand new. So problem solving, discovery, and ingenuity. Those are the 3 things that people will excel at. The 3 things that computers are better at are information management, issue resolution, or recognition, issue recognition, and tasks in process, like just churning algorithmic following of instructions. And so if we start giving away the bottom 3 things, if we start giving away process, we start giving away issue recognition, and we start giving away information management, Then we're going to walk into work on Monday and we're going to not have anything to do. And so the first thing we're going to do is look around for problems that need to be solved. And there's always going to be problems, right? There's an infinite stream of things we could solve, but we can't get to it because we don't have time. And if we, by some miracle, fix all the problems, then we'll start looking for new stuff in the world, new things in our industry, or new problems that we didn't realize existed yet. And then once we do those things, we've solved all the problems and we've discovered as many new things for now as we feel like, then we'll start creating stuff that changes the world. And so, first, if we get that other stuff out of the way, then we'll be sitting there with a blank slate, thinking of interesting ways to spend our time. And that's where the true creativity comes in. We just have to get the other stuff out of the way. And this part will take care of itself, I think.
I love talking about time. You mentioned how people are going to be spending their time. What does the future of work look like where we're already remote? Are we going outside more? What's it look like from a holistic perspective for the teams of the future?
I think that maybe we will go outside more because just like mobile phones have enabled mobility in a way that's helpful. Smart assistants that can be voice powered will also make us more mobile. Like if I can just go for a 45-minute walk and talk to my assistant about what I think about a particular issue, that will free me up to spend more time doing stuff, whatever that might be, going for bike rides or sitting on the beach or walking in the park or hiking up a mountain. That I think will change because it will be less necessary for us all to be having a conversation about a topic at the same exact hour. And so that will make us more mobile for sure. What I don't think is that we get to a place where there's like a 2-day work week or something like that, because I think that the amount of stuff we wish we could do is infinite. So as soon as we make 20% of our work go away, we don't switch to a 40-hour or a 4-day work week. We just do the 20% of stuff that we couldn't do before. And if we don't want to do an infinite amount of work, our boss or our customers want us to do an infinite amount. So right. I think maybe our work week will shift a little bit, but I don't think it'll fundamentally change.
Yeah, this idea of going out for like a 45-minute walk or bike ride and be refueled when you come back to your desk or for your next meeting, it begs the idea of having almost these asynchronous meetings where, in a way, you're talking to representations of, like you were saying earlier, how your colleagues think, so that their questions are coming at you, and then the AI can then summarize, we had a group discussion, none of you were there, here's what you all thought about that, and are there any other questions that you'd like to add?
That's exactly the future, I think. And the first half of it is already here. When I was at Google, I quit Google last September because I'm so excited about helping teams figure out AI that I decided I want this to be my full-time job. But when I was at Google still, we started recording our big team meetings, like an all-hands meeting with like 400 people on it. We would record those. And they were usually like 90 minutes. A bunch of people came and shared, snippets of strategy and stuff like that. And the first thing that happened is those meetings started getting recorded. And so then I was like, well, I have a conflict with this meeting. Maybe I'll just watch the recording. I'm not going to talk in it anyway. I'm just listening. So I'll watch the recording later. And then the second thing that happened is I discovered, I can watch the recording at double speed. Now my 90-minute meeting is a 45-minute meeting. So I'm like, now I'm never going to go to the meeting because I can't watch it at double speed when it's live. So people start opting out of meetings when they're not participating in the discussion. And then we got AI transcription. And so now I don't just have a video of it that I can watch at double speed. I have a summary of it. And if there's one interesting part, I can see the transcription for that one thing, and that's it. And that's dramatically more efficient. So that exists already. So if you're just a consumer of information, AI already makes your consumption of that information dramatically faster. The thing that's not quite there yet is the thing that lets you like push information into the discussion that doesn't actually even happen, but that's coming soon. There's already a company called Ask Humans that is working on something that kind of starts to do that, and it's pretty neat.
That sounds super cool. Yeah, this idea of people not being at the meeting but being able to participate in a different kind of way.
Right.
Love it. All these tools. What are some tools that you've come across that have been wow? This is great. What have you come across recently that you liked?
I think the most mind-blowing. First, I'll talk about some of the basic things that I already use all the time now. So,
Okay.
First I use ChatGPT and I use Claude.ai. I try many questions. I'll try in both of those tools so that I see which one is better at which thing. And right now they're very similar. The second thing I use a lot is a meeting transcription tool. So I use Otter.ai, and it will just record the conversations that I want to record and give me a transcription and a summary, and that's great. But the thing that I tried that just really changed my perspective on things was called HeyGen, HeyGen. Mm-hmm. And it's essentially a virtual avatar creator, which is cool. Like if you want a YouTube channel, but you don't want to be the person on the channel, it's kind of designed for that. So you create a virtual person and then you just type a script and that virtual person reads it. It looks a little fake and kind of robotic, so I didn't really ever want to do that, and I don't mind being on my own YouTube channel, so I don't care about that part. But what I did with it that blew my mind is I just recorded something in English and then translated it into Spanish and Hindi and Mandarin and Japanese and Portuguese and Germany. That was mind-blowing. Now it's trained on my voice, so it sounds like me speaking Japanese, which is crazy. The quality of the translations is perfect. And it's even syncing my lips so that it looks like it's me talking. It's amazing. And so most people, have a business that operates in their main language. For a lot of people, that's English. But there are 6.5 billion people in the world that don't speak English at all. And there's another billion people that speak it, but it's not their native language. So, out of 8 billion people, only 4% of those people speak English naturally. And so by using a tool like HeyGen to automatically translate everything I say into other languages, it allows me to reach a much bigger market than I ever possibly could have before.
That's very interesting food for thought. I've used that tool, but I have not experienced myself speaking Chinese, for example. A friend of mine was just leaving. She's heading to Hong Kong in a few days, and she's probably about, maybe 70. And I just downloaded ChatGPT for her on her phone. We started teaching her some Chinese, and it would translate it for her and correct her pronunciation. And she's able to get a quick list of things that she was using it for about 5 minutes and was headed to go for a flight. And she's like, this is the best travel tool to have, and we'll just probably have a ton of fun. I was thinking about the image input. So when she's on that tour visiting something cool, what's that statue? Great. So many use cases for even just a companion to reflect on ideas. And now that she's using the conversational component, endless opportunities with that.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be amazing. I think the purpose behind the design of Gemini, Google's new AI tool, it's called Gemini because it does images and text together in one model, like twins. It's their hypothesis is that Gemini will be better at that multimodal conversation where you hold up a picture, your phone, and say, "What's this statue?" and it gives you the story. Or you're cooking an omelet and you hold up a picture and say, "Is this omelet done? Should I keep cooking it?" Like those are the things that they're imagining behind Gemini. You can see ChatGPT and OpenAI, racing to also do that. And so I think, all three of the big models will be great at the two-way conversation with images and text. But one of them might be, Gemini could be faster because of the way it's architected at the bottom, but there will be downsides of that as well.
I haven't experimented with Gemini much. Can you tell me a little bit about how it works across all of the Google products? Because as a Google user for email and stuff, I think that there's like a ton of really powerful applications just waiting to be unlocked, as ChatGPT seems a little isolated. It's not in my, it doesn't work with everything unless you have maybe a plugin. Tell us a bit about Gemini and where you see the opportunities.
Yeah, I think that it's likely that it will be built into most of the Google things, right? You'll see it in email, you'll see it in search, you'll see it in, whatever you're using from Google. It will likely be AI powered in the future. On the Microsoft side of things, for teams using Outlook or, the Azure cloud or all of those things, they'll embed ChatGPT in the Microsoft products, and they're already doing that under the brand name Copilot. And so I think you'll see that same thing from Google. Google has been trying really hard to make sure that the information was accurate and not filled with the biases that we're trying to erase from the world. It's hard to make AI respond in the way that we wish the world was when it's trained from data from the actual world. And so, Google's seems like it's behind, but it's because they're tackling this in that way with trying to solve that problem. And that's a hard problem to solve, but you'll see it, I think, in Gmail and Chat and the other things that you use from Google.
That's great. I'm looking forward to, I feel like if anyone can help with your calendar as well, moving things around with AI in a very flexible way. I'm loving the audio input as far as an accessibility tool, whether I am talking to my laptop or using it on the phone. It's just a great way to kind of switch modes, right? Sometimes we want to have that auditory dialogue as we're doing right now. Other times you're in a reading mode or what are your thoughts about accessibility with Google's tools? And
I think so. I don't know that I have a specific information generally about Google's accessibility stuff. I worked on a few of the products, and I know that we were trying really hard to make sure that they were as universally accessible as possible.
Right.
But I do think that one of the ways that voice helps is that there are you mentioned Hong Kong a minute ago, and it's really hard to make Chinese and Japanese characters in software because there are so many different characters in those alphabets that the keyboard is extremely complex, right? And so by shifting to some voice input, you make some of the things available to 2 billion people that couldn't get to it before because they didn't know English characters. So that's an accessibility thing that I think is underlooked at. The second thing that I think voice does is one of the reasons we spend so much time reading and typing silently on our computers is because a lot of us sat in offices and there were 45 people sitting right around us, and we couldn't talk to our computer all day because it would have been, so noisy.
Good point.
If we can go for a 45-minute hike up a mountain while we're talking to our computer, then we're not bothering anyone else, right? That mobility makes mobility becomes possible because of AI, and the audio nature of that exchange becomes possible because we're not sitting in a cubicle in an office anymore.
That's a really good point, and I feel like people will start scheduling these opportunities to have those walk conversations, or it's a really the observation that everyone was together, so the conversation didn't happen with the computer so much,
right?
Or you'd be annoying your neighbor, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me a little bit about what you're reading. Are there any books that have been inspiring some of your thinking? What are you? What's in your library these days?
Let me see. So first of all, I'm writing a book myself, which will be out this fall, and I'm almost done. It's called The Innovation Machine.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a long road to that, but because I'm in the middle of writing, I'm deliberately not reading a bunch of other things because I don't want to accidentally bring some new thoughts into a book that I got from somebody else.
Got it.
However, I do read a lot. Or when I say read, my wife yells at me because what I really mean is I listen to Audible. And let me pop open my Audible library here for a moment and see.
And are you a 2x listener?
I will sometimes listen at triple speed.
Triple speed.
Which can plow through a book pretty quickly, which is amazing. If you listen to a book one time at normal speed and then listen to the same book again at a slightly faster speed, and then do that again. For books that I read multiple times, I started upping the speed because I didn't need, if I missed stuff, it was fine. And then I started just getting used to it. And so now when I hear a book at normal speed, it's really hard for me. My mind is racing ahead.
Yeah, it's fortunate that we don't have that problem with conversations where they seem like slow. But sometimes if you're watching something, it does, because you're maybe used to a faster speed. I also listen to things quite quickly, and it doesn't seem that way in a conversation.
Yeah.
But the moment I'm maybe watching a YouTube video or something where it's like, okay, this is I'm in learning mode. I want this information for the data points. And you're right. If you train yourself to listen faster, you can only improve over time, and you can always pause or rewind something and put it back to a different speed to sink into it.
Right.
Okay, so what do you got there in your Audible?
Let me see. So I read a book called Idea Flow by Jeremy Utley and Perry Claiborne, who are both professors in the design school at Stanford.
Nice.
And that was pretty good. I liked what they were trying to do is add some structure to design thinking and creativity, and I thought that was really good because they're coming at it from a designer perspective, which typically allows for more free form, exploration and less structure, and they're adding some structure to it. I thought that was really, really interesting. Let me see what else I should talk about.
I'm just on their website,
Okay.
ideaflow.design. I love the design focus as a way to problem solve. I studied industrial design many years ago, and it's just a method for thinking, right? That you can approach almost any problem in a methodical way, right?
Right.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to digging in. Thanks for this one.
Yeah, no problem. One other thing I definitely have to call out is a book called Deep Work from Cal Newport. Cal has a couple of books, but he's really talking about like creating time for focused work. That inspired me to put like 2 4-hour blocks, one on Tuesday, one on Thursday every week, to make sure that I'm like not multitasking. I'm not like looking at social or taking meetings for a half hour and interrupting my flow. And that really helped me get my own book to the place that I was actually finally making progress again. So that was a great one as
well. Definitely one to revisit. I think I read it years ago, but a very good reminder. Absolutely. Okay, one more for the trifecta.
Let me jump over to a fiction book for a second, because I mostly read business books. But the most recent fiction that I read was called Wool, by Hugh Howey, and it's the book that the Apple TV show called Silo was based on.
Okay.
And it's a well-written like science fiction book. I would say it's as well written as the Martian was, with the Matt Damon movie where he's stuck stranded on Mars. It's like that. It really does a really great job of painting a potentially dystopian future and putting you in it like that. And the show on I think it's Apple TV. The show did the book great justice, so you could watch either or both, and that I think will be a good distraction if you want that.
That sounds cool. Thanks for those. Tell me, in all of the companies that you work with over the years, big startups, scaling, what's been some of the biggest lessons that you've taken away from these experiences?
I think the first is, people imagine working at a place like Google or McKinsey, and they imagine that it's like this humongous place with like 28,000 people all working together. They have all the resources and money they could possibly want. And meanwhile, I'm just at this startup. We only have 85 people. It's really not that different. Google is just a collection of 85-person startups.
Got it.
Right. And McKinsey is the same exact thing. And so big companies are really just aggregations of teams. And they have all the same team dynamics and all the same, challenges with resources that small teams have. So the biggest learning is that big teams and small teams are a lot more alike than most people think.
That's a good way to look at it, and probably in your experience has made a lot of sense. What has been what was a favorite company to work at, and why?
Easy question. Atlassian.
Okay.
Atlassian is a company from Australia. The two founders, Mike and Scott, they just tried to be software developers, contract for hire. And they made a system to put their own customer requests in. And since it was decent, they put it on the internet and started selling it. And it turned into Jira. That was 20 years ago. And now it's a, $12 billion company. The two founders, they really were trying to create a company that survived. Like Scott would always say, we're trying to create a 50-year organization. So they planned for the long term. They built products that customers would love. They created a culture that people would want to work at for their whole career. We weren't just like swinging by, getting some stock options and then moving on. The culture they created there was pretty neat. And the product was respected by most of the customers. And part of that was because of the care they put into building the team that built the products that they built. It was great.
That's awesome. Sounds like some good memories. Did you spend some time over there? Australia?
I never lived there. I have stepchildren that I could not take out of the state of Illinois, so that was a constraint. But I went to Sydney probably 9 times in the 4 years that I was there. It's a great country. Everyone should try to get to at least once. Definitely a bucket list vacation trip. But great. It was also the first place where I was trying to collaborate with people that wouldn't wake up until 4 p.m. in my day. Mm-hmm. And so, we would have an hour and a half of overlap, maybe, not to mention that my Friday was their Saturday. And so that was the first place where we started to figure out how to work asynchronously. And, a lot of the thoughts I have about sharing information without sitting in a meeting came from my time at Atlassian and working on the Atlassian products.
Aside from time zones, what are some of the other challenges with working across, global teams that, people are dealing with these days?
I think the what good looks like that you brought up earlier is very different for people with different backgrounds. Mm. Like I've worked with a lot of people from Asian countries, and the way they design web pages in Asia is different than the way we do it in the United States. You look at the search engine for Google, there's one logo, 2 buttons, and a text box, and that's it. And you look at, a search engine in China, and it's way different. It's a lot more crowded with color and information. And so when you bring a designer from Asia into a US design team, you got to talk about like what is good for us. And the opposite happens too. When we take one of the designers from the US and put them in an Asian market, they also need to retrain what good looks like. Same thing happens with, working with people from, Germany or other countries where the preciseness of financial data is different than, whatever, Los Angeles, California's approach. The understanding what good looks like across cultures is much harder than a lot of people imagine. So you have to put deliberate time toward overcoming those challenges, building alignment on what good looks like.
Very cool. Let's talk a bit more about the book you're working on. It's coming out in the fall. Why are you writing it? What are you hoping to achieve?
I think what I started with in this podcast today is I said that, I helped my team figure out how to use PCs, and PCs changed the way I worked. It changed the way our team worked. It changed the way we built stuff for our customers. And then the internet did that same thing, and then mobile. And so my hypothesis is that I learned this thing that I did 6 times, and now I'm using that thing to help us overcome AI. And so part of the book was just a personal challenge to actually see, what is the thing that I learned? Did I actually do the same thing 6 times? And what is that? And when I started to look at how I learned new technologies and brought them into teams and the way we worked, I started to realize that innovation isn't actually a thing you can do. Innovation is just a thing that you end up with if you do other things. And so I was like, what are those other things? And I was like, well, first you have to learn stuff. Then you have to try experiments. Then you have to share information about that new stuff with your team in an efficient way without creating a bunch of dissent and disagreement. Then you have to create more autonomy because you're doing more stuff now and some people don't have the experience. And then you have to bring this new technology in and start displacing other things. And so learn, try, share, decide, and technify are these 5 things that you have to do. If you do those 5 things, then you get innovation. And so I call this the innovation machine because innovate is like the gear in the middle of this machine, and learn, try, share, decide, and technify are the gears on the outside of that gear. You can't turn the innovation gear yourself. if I said, what are you doing today? And you said, I'm at my desk innovating, I would laugh at you because that doesn't actually mean anything. And so that's why I started writing the book, to really dissect my own thoughts on the subject. And then I figured, well, it's dissected, I might as well share it with the world.
That's awesome. I love that part about I'm at my desk innovating. Made me chuckle. I think I might use that now if somebody asks me what I'm up to. I'm at my desk innovating.
Right. It's funny. Like, people think about innovation like that, but it's just the result of other things that you do. So I help teams now figure out how to do those other things. I help them learn more stuff, especially about AI. Help them share information more efficiently, and I help them bring new tech into the way they bring customer value to the market.
Very cool. And as a leader yourself, and sharing information, what's one of your biggest challenges right now? I know writing a book isn't easy. What's keeping you up at night, so to speak?
I think the thing that I am the most afraid of. So, a lot of people say AI is going to change the way we do stuff. I'm really worried about the education system. How will our kids learn? Like, what will they even do? What jobs should they major in college? And those will be things that we have to tackle. But I also have children myself. My twins are 22, and I have a 29-year-old son too. And they're really great at self-learning. They learn new things all the time. They go on YouTube. They listen to podcasts. They read books. They're going to be fine. The kids of today are going to be fine. I worry a lot more about the non-kids in the workforce that still have 15 or 18 or 22 years in their career, and those careers are going to shift. And I worry that some people won't take that shift seriously, and they will come into work one day and find that, like, you don't have to send emails or be in meetings anymore, and they won't know what to do. That's I think the thing that keeps me up at night. So I find peers in the world, and I try to help them realize that shift is coming, and help them look at the way we think about work in a new way.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a huge shift. There's no doubt that certain jobs are going to be displaced, and in a way, do you agree that everyone needs to be a student of this kind of technology?
Yeah, I think the world is changing fast enough that everyone should be a continuous learning expert. What you're learning doesn't matter as much as the fact that you're just building learning into making a habit of exposing yourself to new things, so that when a new thing gets pushed on you, you have a mechanism for adopting that new thing. That, I think, is the important part. We sort of designed the knowledge work space as a thing like 1,500 years ago. Like, we created universities, and people, they get some foundation of learning early in their life, and then they spend 4 years picking a focus, or maybe 6 years or 8 years, and then they try to do that thing for 45 years. There's not a thing that you can pick now that you can do for the next 45 years. Like, the world changes way too fast for that now. So continuous learning is the future.
Yeah, it's amazing how I always thought education was kind of slow when I was in school. And I think some kids, they're stimulated at home with devices and things that are giving them instant feedback, and the classroom's certainly changing. What are your hopes for education? I know your kids are out of school. Maybe they're still doing some continuing education, but how do you see education evolving?
I think that we'll see two major changes. The first is curriculum will need to get refreshed much more quickly. Typically a single professor might have a semester-long course that they teach, and they write that class, and then they teach it for 6 or 7 or 13 years. Like, that's done, right? Like, we're going to have to refresh curriculum every semester. And so that will be disrupted for some professors or content creators or whatever. The second thing that will happen is the lecture will start to disappear from the classroom, and it will just be a problem solving exercise, right? You'll learn stuff from videos that you were exposed to online, and then you'll bring the learning from that in and try in groups to solve problems together. You'll have an instructor that helps you when you're stuck on solving problems. Solving problems, discovering new stuff, creating new stuff in the world, the top 3 layers of work from the pyramid earlier, are the things you need to learn in school. And so we won't have a professor standing at the front of a classroom of 35 students teaching pre-algebra. Like we're just not going to have that anymore for pretty soon. I'm not sure when. It should happen like that already now, and we'll see when they catch up.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Dan. I really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for sharing all of your ideas. Congratulations on the book as well. Where can people find out about it, sign up for a wait list? How do people keep up with the progress?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. I have a unique last name, so if you can spell the name Chuparkoff, then you'll find me pretty quickly. The 2 best ways are on my LinkedIn feed, so friend me on LinkedIn, and I'll continue to share what I'm up to. Second place is my own website, chuparkoff.com. And there you can sign up for my blog, and you'll get book updates as they happen. And it's been a great time here on the podcast, and fun conversation. And I'm looking forward to collaborating again in the future.
Thanks so much, Dan. Happy to have you on the show again, and I appreciate you. This has been the AI Training Podcast. For everyone watching, you can find more videos like this at artofchatgpt.com. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day. All right, well.